Hi, in today's video we'll learn more about the best LLM model right now, the Claude 3.5 Sonnet from Anthropic. We'll learn how to use it with code, how to call to the API, how to create our API key. We'll see their capabilities so we can chat with them with text but also images as GPT-4o. And we'll also learn how to introduce this new model to our own chat application. So 2 videos ago we started creating this application, the OmniChat, and we introduced OpenAI models and also Google Gemini models. We can see here the list of all models available right now. So in today's video we'll learn at the end how to introduce the new model to our application. So if you know how to build this chatbot, you will know also how to do your custom applications for any other use case. As you can see here, we are chatting with it but also sending an image and asking an instruction, so to list the ingredients and tell us some idea to cook today, and it's really working and it's so fast. And we'll also see how it compares in terms of pricing and quality to the OpenAI models. You'll find in the description of this video the links to the blog and to the code of today's video. If you check them, you will be able to copy and paste the code and follow better. So 2 days ago, Anthropic, the US startup founded in 2021 by 2 siblings, ex-employees of OpenAI as well, Dario and Daniela Amodei, they announced the Claude 3.5 Sonnet, this updated version of their middle-sized model. So we can see here the smaller size but fast and cheap Claude 3 Haiku, and also the Claude 3 Opus that it was also competing with GPT-4 some months ago. So now they announced the Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is better. It's maintaining the cost and the velocity of Claude 3.0 Sonnet, but it's getting a better quality, even better than Claude 3.0 Sonnet. And here, if we see, it's the best model now in the benchmarks. In some points, it's still better GPT-4o by a little margin, but if we do the average of all the scores, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is currently the better one. It's not only better in the open benchmarks where the models could overfit, but also in some closed ones, as this closed one from Perplexity, where they saw that also Claude 3.5 Sonnet is currently the best performer so far, even better than GPT-4o. And here we can see how Claude, GPT and Gemini, so Anthropic, OpenAI and Google, have been competing this year to get the best LLM, and currently, again, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is winning this race of the benchmarks. It's difficult to tell which model is better because in some circumstances one can be better than the other, but overall these benchmarks are a good overall way of evaluating them. So we can see here the crazy race of this year. And here we can see the pricing of Claude models, and 3.5 Sonnet is $3 per million tokens of input and $15 for million tokens of output. So it's almost the same price as GPT-4o currently have, but also Claude 3.5, as the other Claude models, have 200,000 context windows of tokens. So this is almost double of GPT-4o and GPT-4 Turbo, but it's 5 times less than Gemini models. It's maybe the best feature of Gemini, the million tokens context. So you can go to Claude.ai and create an account, and you can start chatting for free with Claude, so you don't have to pay for it, and you can try the best model. And also, if you want to develop some code, we'll see now how to do it, but one way of starting is also here in this console, the console.anthropic.com. We'll go there in a moment, and here you can test some queries, and then here you can get the code to start doing it. We'll see now how to do it, but you can play more with console.anthropic.com. And here basically, if you go to settings, you will go to API key, and here we're creating a new API key. A very good point here is that we don't have to put a credit card yet, so we can start for free, and we have here some $5 to play around. So this is a very good feature because until now for Google and OpenAI models we had to introduce some payment method, a credit card for example. So here we don't have to do it. We have $5 to start playing around for free, and these $5 are like doing so much because I've been doing different queries with images and many texts and so far I only spent 20 cents, so you can do many things with these $5. After you create your account and the API key, you have to copy it, by the way. We'll go to the OmniChat project. If you don't have it, you can check it in my GitHub account and copy it from there. So you can clone it, or you can create a new folder in your computer. So then we'll go to the .env folder here, and we'll add here our Anthropic key. So Anthropic underscore API underscore key. And then here you copy your API key, okay? Don't share it with anyone, and make sure that this .env file is in the gitignore file of GitHub. So Git doesn't track this file and you don't upload it to GitHub and it's not shared with anyone. We have to save, remember to save this file as well. Okay, now we'll go to the API experiment.ipy notebook that we created in our previous projects. If you don't have it, you can create a new notebook and start from scratch. So here we'll create now some new cells. and we will create a title here with Markdown for the Anthropic Claude API. Okay, so let's see how to use with Python the Claude API. We'll start copying this line of here, pretty similar as we saw in the Claude console. And we'll need to install Anthropic and also python.env if you don't have it yet. So let's open the terminal. We'll need to init the virtual environment if you have it. It's optional. And now we need to pip install Anthropic and python.env if you don't have it also. Okay, now let's close the terminal and make sure that in the notebook you are using the virtual environment or where you install these libraries. And here we have the imports of Anthropic.env OS. Here we are loading this .env virtual environment. So our API key is loaded now in our system. And we are creating here the client Anthropic.anthropic. And here we are passing the API key. Then we will start instantiating this model. And we are doing like this, client messages create. Here we instantiate the model. We could use here also the Claude 3.0 Opus or Haiku, but we'll be using only today the 3.5 Sonnet, the best one. Now here we tell maximum tokens for the output, the temperature of it, so something low but not zero, and here the messages. And we'll see that the messages format is very similar as the OpenAI one. So role is user or assistant, and then the content is very similar as well. Type text and then text if we want to introduce a text prompt. And the only difference so far that I've seen is with the images. If we want to introduce here an image, it's very similar, but not the same format. We'll see later how is the format for images. But let's try to run this for now, and let's print here the message response from the model. And yeah, what is the shortest protein in the human body? And we get this response, not bad, pretty concise and complete, so it's looking good. So here we can change now for any other question, any other instructions prompt. It can be very long with many details of how to do it. And we will get the response in here. Okay, so now let's move to the next step and we'll see how to stream this response. So now we had to wait like 5 seconds to get the full response. So here we'll see how to get the response in stream. We did this as well with Google and OpenAI, so we could introduce this feature in our application. So the users of our application don't have to wait for the full response to be generated. They can start reading it while it's created. And here we are creating this stream. So it's basically creating the model, but in a stream mode. And here we will get every text, every chunk of text while it's generated. We'll see it here like this, like printing every chunk of text, and then we'll put these dashes only now here to understand that it's really streaming, but we won't do this in our application. So here we are only asking hello, but it's streaming here. Hello, how can I assist you today? Feel free to ask specific, and well, it's longer than that. But we can see here that the Claude API is streaming so much faster, the responses, so it's not waiting for longer chunk of text to be sent. Okay, now let's see how to chat with images. And we'll create this util function that we already have in our application, but let's put it here as well. So here we'll get any image from our folder and transform it to base64, this encoding that allows us to send images encoded in text format through the internet. And now that we have this util function, let's see how to query images. So I will be putting this image in my folder now, this pizza image. And now this is the path of the image in my folder, in the root of my folder. And this is the media type, it's an image JPG. Okay, we are transforming the image to base64 as a string. And now we introduce, this is the same, okay? And we introduce the image like this. So this part of here, so role user, content, now we have two contents. In the previous example, we only had a single content, so it was a text type before. So now we have two contents. So content is a list, can be different images and text. And the first one will be now of type image, okay? And here's the difference between OpenAI and Claude. So in OpenAI, this was image URL and this format was slightly different. So in Claude, we have to do like this. Type base64, media type is this image JPG of here. And then here, the data is the base64 encoded image and the instructions in a separate content of type text. Okay, so now only with this, it's not really complicated. It's just a few lines of code. We already chat with images and ask, tell me the ingredients and the instructions to make the pizza from the image. This could be very helpful for many different use cases. And yeah, I missed to run this cell of here, but now we'll see. We are not streaming the response in this case. but we saw that pretty large response, it's been outputted in really short time. And we have here, based on the image, this appears to be a Napolitan style pizza. So I didn't tell this, and it not only saw that it was a pizza, but also the type of pizza. And it's getting the ingredients: pizza dough, tomato sauce, fresh mozzarella, Italian sausage, or meatballs, fresh basil leaves, and olive oil. So let's check the pizza again because it's not missing any ingredient. So we can see here the basil, the sausage that could be missed between the tomato. So it's getting, I think, that all the ingredients. And here we have the detailed instructions step by step. So it's a pretty good response, and it's getting everything from the image, I would say. We could try any other example, but we see now how it's working and how to introduce images in our prompt. So this GPT-4o in the API, it only gets text and images, not audio and video that Gemini could do. But for images and so, maybe it's one of the better models right now as well, the Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Okay, so now that we saw all the basics of how to interact with our API with images and text, let's go to the next part of this video. So let's introduce in our application this new model. Let's save this notebook. And now in this application, so if you didn't follow the previous two videos, you can clone or download my GitHub repo. And whenever you do it, you have to go into requirements.txt file, and to be able to run the application, you need to init the virtual environment if you have it. Otherwise, you don't need to do this step. And then do pip install -r requirements.txt. And you have to make sure that you are in the root of the project. So you have to do cd into the OmniChat folder after you download it. And if you are in this root of here, in this path of here, if you run this command, it will install all the dependencies that are described here in this file. So you will be able now let's clear this and Streamlit run app.py. So let's see how it was our application so far. So yeah, it's here running, and we had OpenAI and Google so far with their both models, and it's getting from our environment variables the OpenAI and the Google API keys. So if you don't have it yet, you have to create the .env file. Maybe you already created it in the previous step in the notebook. And in there, you can also put the OpenAI and the Google API keys if you have them. If you don't have any of those, it won't list here the models from the supplier that you didn't provide the API. So it detects for every supplier, if it has the API key, it's listing their models. Otherwise, it's not listing them because it won't work. And here we have all the steps needed. So yeah, to put the model parameters, the audio response, rest conversation, upload images and also videos if it's Gemini, and also the option to talk to the models. So we had already all of this. We'll see now how to introduce the Claude 3.5 model into this application. So first of all, we have to go now to the app.py, and we'll be now updating step by step this application. The first thing will be to introduce here the Anthropic library after all the other libraries that we already had for the project. Then next step will be here listing the Anthropic models. We'll only put here the Claude 3.5 Sonnet. We could introduce the other ones, but we put here only the best one. Then here we had util function to convert the OpenAI format from messages to the Gemini format. So we'll do something similar for the Anthropic models. They are very similar in format to the OpenAI and Streamlit, but we'll need some adaptation to transform the image type. Here we can see how to do this. And it seems slightly complicated, but the only thing that we are doing is to check if there is any content type that is an image, and we are adapting the format of the images. Anything else will be keep the same, but we'll have it to do it like this to make it work. So here we'll be passing the list of messages in OpenAI and Streamlit format. That is how we are storing in the session state our history message of the conversation. And before sending the conversation to the Anthropic model, we'll transforming it with this function of here. And this is before the main function in the util functions. So then we have here some other util functions, and we'll need to add also this one a little bit. So this is the stream LLM response, and here we are sending all the conversation and the model parameters, and we are creating the model and querying it in stream mode. And in the previous video, we had to adapt it to have the OpenAI version to create OpenAI models and query them. Here, if the model type was Google, we had it differently because Google models, the Gemini models, are instantiated and queried slightly different. And here we had the streaming of Gemini models. And now here today we need a third case, which will be for Anthropic models. So let's see how to do this. And whenever the model type is Anthropic, we'll need to create the client as we saw before and create the stream of the client. with the parameters, with the model type that will be only Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Then the messages to Anthropic. So we are changing here the format, the temperature of the model, maximum token that is fixed in 4000. And here we'll have the stream with every text chunk that will be yielding this text chunk to be displayed automatically in real time into the Streamlit UI. And at the end, we'll have the response message to add it to the full history messages. And we'll be appending it here to the session state of Streamlit. Here, the response message as text type. Okay, so those are the utils. We had to modify this function a little bit, add these messages to Anthropic and the list of new models. So now let's move into the main function here. Everything else is the same, so we'll be reusing these utils to convert file to base64 and so on. And here in the main, we have here the page configs, the title, this doesn't change. Here we started with the sidebar, where the user can introduce their API keys. So if we deploy this into the internet and we allow everyone to use it, every user will be using their API keys, so we don't have to pay for them. So here we had the OpenAI API key and the Google API key. Let's see in the website how it was looking like. So I'm referring out these two popovers of here, the OpenAI one and the Google one here, and the API keys are kept secret with this password type of text input. So let's see now how to add the Anthropic key. And we'll do it adding here some more lines, but very similar as before. We'll put this in a new line, not in a column for now. And the default Anthropic key is looking in our environment variables. And if it's in the internet deployed and we don't share there the environment variables of our API keys, it will be an empty string. So the user will need to introduce their API key like this. Okay, let's save this and let's check if it's working. Now here in the localhost application, we'll need to rerun this. And now we have here Anthropic with our Anthropic API key from the local environment variables. Okay, so this is working. So here we are checking if there is any OpenAI API key or Google API key, because otherwise, if there is no API keys introduced, it doesn't make sense to follow because the user won't be able to query any of those models. So we'll add here now if there is also any Anthropic API key. Now, this is to introduce the videos in my website, so don't worry about this. And now this is keep the same, no problems here. And here now in the ST sidebar, we'll need to introduce the available models. Now we'll have also the Anthropic models if there is any API key from Anthropic. So let's add here that the list of available models also has to check if there is Anthropic API key. So this is basically adding these models into the list of available models if there is API keys from every one of those. Let's go back here. And here we'll need to add that if model starts with Claude, the model type is Anthropic now. So later when we use our define function, the LLM stream response, we'll know which model type is, so we can use the appropriate library to query the model that we want to use. Now here the model parameters are temperature, the same. The audio response will work as well because we are using OpenAI for this. So this is the same. Here we want to tell also that Claude also gets images. So now if the model is in GPT-4o, GPT-4 Turbo, the Gemini models, or also Claude 3.5, we want the user to be able to upload images as well, because this model also allows to introduce images. So let's add it here. And now we'll do the last change that we need to do. So here is what images, this doesn't change, it's the same. This is to upload audios, that doesn't change, it's the same. And now here in the chat input, this is also the same because as we mentioned before, the Anthropic Claude API is very similar as OpenAI. So we can reuse much of the logic that we had for OpenAI and Gemini. And here we'll change this slightly before calling to the stream LLM response because now we have 3 possible model providers. So let's change this a little with the introduction here of this model to key dictionary that will be mapping from every model type to its API key. So now the code will be better. And then here in the API key, instead of doing it like this, we will change this a little bit, putting here API key now is the model to key with the model type. So if model type now is Anthropic, we'll be sending here the Anthropic API key to the API key of our stream LLM response. Let's put this here. And model type is the same, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, and the params also the same. The model name, the temperature, and yeah, here we have the audio response using OpenAI TTS. This is the same. So if the user introduces the OpenAI API key, but also the Anthropic key. The Anthropic response in text will be transformed to audio using the TTS model from OpenAI if the audio response is activated in the configuration menu. Otherwise, it will be only with text. And with this, we will be playing automatically this audio response from the model in a widget in our application. So that's all. That were all the changes. Let's save this with Ctrl S. And now let's go to the application to check that everything is working. So here we have the Anthropic API key. Here we have our Claude 3.5 model now by default. We can change for any other one, but let's try now the Claude 3.5. So let's start by saying something like, hello, who are you? And let's see if it works. So it's working, and we see that it's also streaming the response. So we don't have to wait for the full response to be generated. The streaming is really working. Now let's upload an image. Now let's try with the fridge food image that we tried the other day. And let's ask to list the ingredients and their quantities from the image. Let's ask this. And let's see how fast is it. So, okay, it's already typing so fast, the response. And bananas, avocados. Okay, it's not listing the quantities, I think, but at least it's pretty accurate, the list of ingredients. So I think it's not missing anyone or putting an extra. It's listing here tomatoes that I think that there aren't, but I think it's the only error. Okay, so it's working. Now let's check if we can introduce audio as well, but it will be transformed to text, so it's using only OpenAI. But let's test it. Hi, suggest me some dish to create with these ingredients. Okay, so I miss here a small thing that is now to convert this, that has to be different now to Google model. With this little change, now it will work, the speech-to-text feature. So let's save it now and let's try it again. Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Let's reset the conversation and let's ask something with the micro. Hi, this is working. Tell me something. And we can see now that it's working. So yeah, that was the small error that we had before. Everything else is good so far. So let's activate now the audio response to check that it's also working. Tell me something short. And in theory, now we'll receive this response in audio as well. So it's creating now the audio.
Here's a short, interesting fact. Honey never spoils. Archaeologists have found pots of...
Okay, so this is the audio response. So we can now also talk to the model and get the response back pretty fast. But this is using, Whisper to transform my voice to text and text to speech to transform the text of the response of the model to speech. So it's using OpenAI for this, but the model response is with Claude in this case. Let's test now that Gemini and OpenAI is still working, that we didn't break anything. Hello, who are you? I miss the you. But yeah, it's working. The
Hello,
Gemini 1.5.
I'm doing well.
Flash.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, the audio as well. Let's deactivate it. And finally, let's put GPT-4o here with an image as well, the pizza one. Let's see how it does with the same instruction. Let me copy the instruction from the notebook. So it was tell me the ingredients and the instructions to make the pizza from the image. Let's see how GPT-4o does with the same instruction. Okay, the velocity maybe it's even faster. Yeah, GPT-4o it's faster than Claude. But anyway, this velocity is already so much faster than the human average read velocity, so it's already more than enough. So ingredients for the dough, for the toppings, maybe it's even more accurate because it's giving more details, but the both answers were okay, I would say. Okay, I think that it's also good. Instructions, but yeah, it's still working. So I will push this code now to GitHub, everything that we have been introducing in a new terminal here. Let's put git add Claude 3.5 Sonnet, git push to my GitHub repo. And I forgot one step, and I will need to activate the virtual environment because I forgot to do the pip freeze requirements txt file. So I forgot to update the new libraries into requirements txt file. Now I will need also, as we saw in the last video, if you are in Windows, whenever you do pip freeze to requirements txt, make sure that this pywin32 is not here. So comment this line or delete it. You have to do this manually and save the file. And now we can again git add, git commit, add requirements, and git push the code. And now we can see here in our repo that the updates are already here. So requirements has been updated. This is the last commit that we did, that we forgot about requirements. So now that we have the latest version in our repo already in GitHub, the Streamlit application should be automatically updated. Okay, so now we have it here working. Let's try to put our API key. I will try only the Anthropic one here, as we are in the internet. So this URL can be accessed from any device, so you can try it. Here now, every user to use my application needs to introduce here their API keys. I will put mine here now, and it's activating only the Claude models in this case, the Anthropic models, because I only introduced the Anthropic API key. And now let's try to use the model. Hi, and it's working pretty fast and it's streaming as well. Let's try to use the images as well. The pizza one. What's the name of the pizza? Let's try something different just to check. It's a margarita pizza. Okay. So apparently, yeah. It also get the sausage or the meatballs. So it's really getting the image, not only from my question. So it's really working. We'll learn about the new Anthropic models, the Claude 3.5 Sonnet, how they compare with the OpenAI models and the Google models, the price, how to use it with Python starting from scratch, and also how to introduce it in our own application. We learn now how to deploy the application, how to update it at least, because we already deployed it in the previous videos. So you can go now and without any money, because as we saw, they are giving us $5 to start for free, and it's so cheap to use it. So you can start now for free introducing this model to your own applications. You can try your custom use case and do something original, for example. And we saw how to do it from scratch, step by step. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure to check the links in the description to check the blog and also the code in GitHub so you can follow along this video. And let's see you in the next video. Bye bye.